Look at the next question, question number 25. In the assignment in Newton's laws, how much force is required to push a 100 Newton wooden block up a frictionless plane that is inclined at an angle of 30 degrees with the horizontal, so that it has an acceleration of 2.5 meter per second square along the plane. The force is to be applied along the plane. So here we'll first consider the forces acting on the block. Can draw a diagram showing all the forces acting on the block. So the block is to be moved up along the inclined plane. The plane makes an angle of theta equal to 30 degrees with the horizontal. The first external force which acts on the block is its weight mg, which is the gravitational force of the block by the earth. Then second force is the normal reaction force on the block by the inclined surface, which acts perpendicular to surface and direct away from surface. Let Kepler denote the magnitude of the force to be applied on the block parallel to the inclined surface in order to move it up along the inclined plane. So you can draw even a separate figure also showing only these forces acting on the block. So we choose here the direction parallel to the inclined surface up along the inclined plane as positive x-axis, direction perpendicular to the inclined surface as y-axis. So you can draw a separate figure showing the forces acting on the block. The weight mg of the block acts vertically downwards. The magnitude of the weight mg is equal to mass of the block into g, which represents the gravitational force of the block by the earth. The normal reaction force on the block by the inclined plane acts perpendicular to the inclined surface and directed away from surface. Let Kepler denote the magnitude of force to be applied on the block parallel to the inclined surface to move the block up along the inclined plane with a given acceleration. So I choose the direction of the motion of the block up along the inclined plane as positive direction of x-axis. Direction perpendicular to the inclined plane as y-axis. The line of action of the weight mg and the line of action of normal reaction are produced. The smaller angle between the line of action of the weight mg and line of action of normal reaction produced backwards will always be same as the angle of inclination theta of the inclined plane to the horizontal. So normal reaction force acts along positive y-axis. The pushing force applied on the block, the accelerating force acts along positive x-axis. The weight mg of the block is inclined to both external axes. As explained earlier in the free body diagram method, first step is draw a diagram indicating all the forces acting on the body. The second step is you have to select X and Y axis. The third step is if a force is inclined to both X and Y axis, you have to resolve it into rectangular components parallel to X and Y axis. So you can resolve the weight mg into rectangular components parallel to X and Y axis. The component mg cos theta acts perpendicular to the inclined surface up to the normal reaction. The component mg sin theta acts down the inclined plane opposite to the direction of the motion. So y component resultant force of the block are denoted by Fy. That can be written as minus mg cos theta. But the block has no acceleration parallel to y-axis. The block has no motion parallel to the y direction. So y component resultant for the block must be 0. If Fy is 0, resultant force of the block will be equal to Fx. That means resultant of forces acting along x-axis here capital F represents the magnitude of the accelerating force applied on the block parallel to the inclined surface which acts along positive x-axis in the direction of the motion. The component mg sin theta acts opposite to the direction of the motion, the negative direction of x-axis. So magnitude of the resultant force along x direction will be F minus mg sin theta. According to Newton of second law, resultant of all the force acting on the block will be equal to product of its mass and acceleration. So magnitude of the force applied on the block parallel to the inclined surface has to be equal to mg sin theta plus ma. So we are given the weight mg of the block as 100 newtons. And g is given to 10 meter per second square. So we substitute g equal to 10 meter per second square on the left side. You get mass of the block equal to 10 kg. So you can substitute here mg equal to 100 newtons. Theta is 30 degrees. Mass of the block is 10 kg. Acceleration is 2.5 meter per second square. So it will be in SI units. Sin 30 degrees is equal to 1 by 2. So those who want to copy the solution of the problem, they can copy the solution of the problem. So answer will be 75 Newton. So who want to copy the solution of the problem, they can copy down the solution of the problem. In case you need more time to copy the solution, take a pause. So look at the question number 26. A 1000 kg lift is supported by cable that can support 2000 kg. The shortest distance in which the lift can be stopped when it is descending with a speed of 2.5 meter per second is. This problem, same model I have discussed earlier. You try to do this problem yourself. I tell you the question number, that is, this problem is similar to the question number 22. That means this problem procedure for solving this problem is same as the procedure which I have discussed for question number 22. So therefore, whatever method I explained to you for question number 22, you please try to follow same method and solve this problem yourself for your practice. Answers are already given you earlier. I am next going to discuss the question number 27. In case you need time to solve the problem, you can take a pause and take your time. See the question number 27. Two masses M1 and M2 are connected by light string passing over a smooth pulley. When set free, M1 moves downwards by 1.4 meters in 2 seconds. The ratio M1 by M2 is G is 9.8 meter per second square. So I am going to discuss this problem. This problem is based on the Atwood's mission, which I have discussed earlier. This problem is based on the Atwood's mission I have discussed earlier. That means, as I discussed earlier, if two masses M1 and M2 are connected by a light string, which passes over a smooth, light and fixed pulley, then when the two masses are released from rest, the heavier mass moves downwards, lighter mass starts moving upwards. So it is given that M1 starts moving downwards, so you can conclude that M1 is greater than M2. So as I already discussed this case before the problems in assignment in connecting bodies, I directly make use of the formula I have derived in the past. The magnitude of acceleration of the masses is given by M1 minus M2 by M1 plus M2 whole multiplied by G. So to find the ratio of M1 by M2, to find the ratio M1 by M2, you have to first find the magnitude of acceleration. The body starts from rest and moves with constant acceleration. Then magnitude of the displacement covered in time t is given by equal half at scale. It's given that the body, each mass M1 moves downwards by 1.4 meters in 2 seconds. So I can take S equal to 1.4 meters in t equal to 2 seconds. So this you can simplify it for acceleration. So you get magnitude of the acceleration equal to, can simplify this yourself, you get 0.7 meter per second square. We'll substitute this value of A in this equation to find the ratio of the masses. Then substitute acceleration A equal to 0.7 meter per second square on the left side, and G equal to 9.8 meter per second square on the right side. Units of acceleration get cancelled. Come on, those who want to copy the solution of the problem, they can start writing the solution. They can start copying the solution. The last part of the simplification they can try to do themselves. So they get M1 plus M2 by M1 minus M2, they get 14. You can solve this equation to find M1 by M2. You can solve it yourself. Come on, simplify it yourself and complete the problem yourself. Answer was already given to you. I'm going to discuss the next problem. In case you need more time to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and take your time. See the question number 28. A plumb bob is hanging from the ceiling of a car. The car moves with an acceleration A along a level road. The angle made by the string with the vertical is. Already I have shown you this question. You have to find the angle theta in terms of the ratio of A and G. I would like to solve this problem by two methods. That is, one method is, I would like to solve the problem with respect to stationary observer on the ground or with respect to laboratory frame of reference. The other method is I would like to solve the same problem with respect to the accelerated frame of reference. So let us first solve the problem with respect to the laboratory frame of reference, means with respect to stationary observer on the ground. So the bob is suspended by a string or thread from the ceiling of a car. I have shown the situation when the car is at rest and bob is at rest at the lowest position. So when the car suppose starts moving towards right with some acceleration A, as you know from observation, the bob will be deflected towards left. Let theta be the angle made by the string with a vertical. When the car is moving with an acceleration A. So when the car moves horizontally with an acceleration of magnitude A, the point of suspension also moves towards right with same acceleration A. The acceleration of the car is constant. Then this theta, that is the angle which the string makes with the downward vertical, will also be constant. So with respect to stationary observer on the ground, the bob appears to move horizontally with the same acceleration with which the car moves. And with respect to stationary observer on the ground, you can say that the bob has no motion in the vertical direction. So I am solving the problem first with respect to the laboratory frame of reference. That means with respect to stationary observer on the ground. So two forces act on the bob. One is its weight mg, which is the gravitational force on the bob by the earth. Second one is the tension force by the string. Here capital T represents the magnitude of the tension force exerted on the bob by the string, which acts along the string and away from the bob. So only two forces act on the bob with respect to laboratory frame of reference, which we consider as inertial frame of reference. So then we choose x and y axis. With respect to stationary observer on the ground, the bob appears to move horizontally with same acceleration as that of the car. Therefore, I choose the horizontal direction. That is the direction of the motion as x-axis, and vertical upward direction as y-axis. The weight mg acts vertically downwards in the negative direction of y-axis. The tension force is inclined to both x and y-axis, so I resolve this tension force into rectangular components along x and y-axis. So the line of action of the weight mg is parallel to the vertical line through the point of suspension. So alternate angles, when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, the alternate angles must be equal. So this will also be theta. So you can resolve the tension force along into two rectangular components along y-axis and x-axis. So the component of tension which acts along y-axis, which makes angle theta with the direction of the tension force, will have magnitude t cos theta. The other component tension will be equal to t sin theta. So vertical component tension with magnitude t cos theta directed vertically upwards along positive axis. The weight mg of the bob acts vertical downwards in the negative direction of axis. So y component of resultant force on the bob is equal to t cos theta minus mg. But here the bob has no motion in the vertical direction. Therefore, y component resultant for the bob must be 0. So T cos theta equal to mg in magnitude. Quadratic equation 1. When y component of resultant force is 0, resultant force on the bob is equal to x component of the resultant force. And Fx represents x component of the resultant force. The only force which acts on the bob along x-axis is the horizontal component of the tension, which has magnitude T sin theta. So resultant force of the bob with respect to station observed on the earth or with respect to laboratory frame, which we consider as inertial frame, is T sin theta. From Newton's second law, resultant of all the force acting on the bob will be equal to product of its mass and acceleration. So if you divide the second equation with the first equation, that is T sin theta by T cos theta will be equal to MA by mg. So you get tan theta equal to A by G, or A equal to G tan theta. Of course, in the given problem, you are asked to find theta here, so answer can be written as tan inverse of A by G. That's the answer. In case you are asked to find magnitude of tension of the string, of course, in the question I have shown on the screen, you are just asked only to find theta. But sometimes you may be asked to find magnitude of tension in the string in terms of the mass of the bob and acceleration A of the car. Then you have to eliminate theta from the two equations. For that, we can square and add the two equations. From first equation, I mean if you square both sides of the first equation, T square cos square theta can be written as m square G square. If you square both sides of the second equation, you can write T square sin square theta equal to m square A square. If you add the last two equations, T square cos square theta plus T square sin square theta will be equal to m square G square plus m square A square. You can take T square common on the left hand side and m square common on the right side. And as all of you must be knowing, cos square theta plus sin square theta will always be equal to 1 for any value of theta. So you get T square equal to m square into G square plus A square. So magnitude of the tension in the string, you get m into root of G square plus A square. Next, I am going to discuss the same problem by the alternate method. So I am discussing the same problem now by the alternate method. The alternate method is, that means I solve the problem with respect to the frame of reference fixed to the car. The coordinate system or frame of reference which is fixed to the car, or the coordinate system fixed to an observer inside the car who is moving along with the car, is an accelerated frame of reference or non-inertial frame of reference. So when you analyze the motion of the bob with respect to the accelerated frame of reference or non-inertial frame of reference, in addition to the real forces acting on the bob, we have to consider the pseudo force. Again, I draw the free body diagram for the bob. Of course, the two real forces which act on the bob with respect to the observer in the inertial frame or laboratory frame or weight mg and tension the string. Again, let theta denote the angle made by the string with the vertical. Choose the horizontal direction, that is the direction of the motion of the car as x-axis. Vertical direction is y-axis. So the car is moving towards right with an acceleration of magnitude a. Then in the non-inertial frame or accelerated frame, the pseudo force of magnitude ma acts on the bob towards left, opposite to the direction of acceleration. So I have drawn the free body diagram for the bob with respect to the accelerated frame of reference, or which is, we can call it as non-inertial frame of reference, fixed to the car. That means the coordinate system or frame of reference is moving horizontally towards right with an acceleration a with respect to ground. So in addition to the two real force mg and t, we have also shown this pseudo force. The magnitude of the pseudo force is equal to product of the magnitude of the mass and of the bob and magnitude of acceleration of the frame of reference, which is denoted by a. So just like in the earlier method, here also we have to resolve the tensional force into two rectangular components along the horizontal and vertical directions. So here, with respect to the car or with respect to the state of observance of the car, the bob appears to be stationary. When the car moves with a constant acceleration, this theta will be constant. So therefore, x component of the resultant force will be t sin theta minus ma, that will be 0. So t sin theta you get ma. The y component resultant force will be equal to t cos theta minus mg. I mean y component resultant for the bob with respect to the accelerated frame. That is also 0 because the bob has no vertical direction. So you get same equations again. This equation we called as first equation in the previous method. This equation I called it as second equation. Then last part of the procedure is same in both the methods. You have to divide one by the other to get the answer. If you want to copy the alternate method also, you can copy down the alternate method. See that in the previous class I have discussed the solutions for the questions in the assignment in Newton's laws up to question number 28. So next I am going to discuss the solutions of the remaining questions numbering from 29 to 32. Look at the question number 29 on the screen. A bullet is fired from a gun. The force on the bullet is given by F equal to 600 minus 2 in 10 power of 5 into T, where F is in Newton and small t in seconds. The force on the bullet becomes 0 as soon as it leaves the barrel. What is the average impulse imparted to the bullet? Here the force is not a constant force. The force varies with time t according to the given equation. If the force is constant for the given time interval, then impulse can be simply written as F into delta t or F into time interval. But here the force is not constant. So therefore, there are two methods solving the problem. One method is by the integration method. The second method is to follow the graphical method. First, in each method, first you have to find the time taken for the bullet to come out of the barrel. That means you have to find the time after which the force becomes 0. So to find the time after which the force becomes 0, I have to put F equal to 0 in the given equation. Let us denote the time after which the force becomes 0 by capital T. That means F is 0 at small t equal to capital T. That is capital T, the total time for which the force acts on the bullet. So to find capital T, you can substitute F equal to 0 on the left side and small t equal to capital T. Therefore, capital T can be written as 600 by 2 into 10 to the power of 5. Or you can write 3 into 10 power minus 3. That means the force on the bullet becomes 0 after a time interval of 3 into 10 to the power of minus 3 seconds. So, impulse for infinitesimally small interval of time, we write f dt. So, total impulse given to the bullet during this time interval capital T can be found this way. That is equal to integral f dt from small t equal to 0 to small t equal to capital T. So, you can write f equal to 600 minus 2 into 10 to the power of 5 into t. I denote impulse by J, so that you can write 600 into integral dt minus 2 into 10 to the power of 5 integral t dt. But the limits 0 to capital T. So if you have 600 into t minus 2 into 10 to the power of 5 into t square by 2, 0 to capital T. So if you substitute small t equal to capital T, the value of the function for lower limit becomes 0. So you can write as 600 into capital T minus 10 to the power of 5 into t square. Now we can substitute capital T equal to 3 into 10 power minus 3. So those who want to copy the solution of the problem, they can start writing the solution of the problem. If you simplify this, you get the answer. Come on, those who are want to copy the solution, they can copy the solution of the problem. So you get, that will be 1.8 minus 0.9. That will be 0.9. Of course, answer will be 0.9 Newton second. Those who want to copy the solution of the problem, they can copy down the solution of the problem. In case you need more time to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and take your time. I would like to solve the same question next by the alternate method. Next, I would like to discuss same question number 29, by the alternate method without using the method of integration. The alternate method may be particularly convenient for some of the biology group students, that is non-mathematics students. Next, I would like to discuss the same question by the alternate method. Even in the alternate method, first you have to find the capital T, means the time for which the force acts. That means the starting part of the calculation is same in even in the alternate method. F becomes 0 at small t equal to capital T. That means here capital T represents the time in seconds after which the bullet leaves the barrel. That means capital T is the time in seconds after which the force becomes 0. So you can substitute F equal to 0 on the left side of the equation. Then you put small t equal to capital T on the right hand side of the equation. So you get capital T equal to, by following same method, that means the initial calculation is same by the earlier procedure. So you get capital T equal to 3 into 10 power minus 3 in seconds. Now it is, you can observe that in the given equation force is decreasing uniformly with time, linearly with time. That means force is a linear function of time. Therefore, if you draw a graph showing the variation of the magnitude of the force with the time, that means if you take time small t along x-axis, force F along y-axis. At t equal to 0, that means the beginning of the bullet is just fired. You can substitute small t equal to 0 in the equation to know the initial magnitude of the force. F equal to 600 minus 0. That means at the initial instant, the initial magnitude of the force I denote it by F0, suppose. So F0 is 600 newtons. F0 represents the initial magnitude of the force at the initial instant t equal to 0, at the instant when the bullet is fired. So here the force is maximum at the initial instant denoted by F0, then decreases uniformly with time. Finally force becomes 0 after a time interval equal to capital T. So the straight line AB represents the graph. The line BA represents the graph with force along y-axis and time along x-axis. As I discussed earlier, the area under the force time graph and time axis gives the impulse. So impulse J equal to area of triangle OAB. The area of triangle OAB equal half into base into height. That is base OA into height OB. The base OA is equal to the time capital T after which the force becomes 0. The height OB equal to F0. Capital T, that is 3 in 10 power minus 3 into F is 600. SI units, of course. So you get J equal to 9 in 10 power minus 1 Newton meter. I'm sorry, Newton second, not Newton meter. Or 0.9 Newton second. So that's the answer for the problem. Those who want to copy the solution, they can copy down the solution. I mean those who want to copy the alternate method. The alternate method will particularly useful, convenient, may be convenient for the biology students, BioPC group students or mathematics students without using integration. Next I am going to discuss the question number 30. In case you need more time to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and take your time. See the question number 30. A block of weight 100 Newton is held in equilibrium with the help of 3 strings and rigid frame PQR as shown in the figure. The tension of the string OR is equal to, within bracket is given cos 53 3 by 5. So here there are 3 strings, so there will be 3 tensional forces. Let T1 denote the magnitude of the tension of the string OP and T2 denote the magnitude of the tension on the string OR. Let T3 denote the magnitude of the tension on the vertical string connected to the block. So I draw, first consider the force acting on the block. If you draw the free body diagram for the block, two forces act on the block here. One is its weight mg, which acts vertically downwards. That is the gravitational force of the block with that. Second one is the tensional force by the third string on the block. T3 represents the magnitude of the tensional force exerted on the block by the third string, which acts along the third string and away from the block. That is vertical upwards. The weight of the block acts downwards. So resultant force on the block. Magnitude of the resultant force on block. R force means the resultant force here is equal to T3 minus mg. But the block is in equilibrium, static equilibrium, so resultant force on the block must be 0. So the magnitude of tension T3 can be taken as weight mg of the block. The weight mg of the block is given to be 100 newtons, so you can take T3 equal to 100 newton. You are asked to find the tension T2 in the string OR. For that, I consider the forces acting at the point O. That means the particle at the point O. The particle at the point O, common to both the three strings, or the knot or point at O. I consider the free body diagram for the force acting at O. The tension force exerted by the string always acts along the string. In general, the tension force exerted by the string on a particle acts along the string and away from that particle. So there will be three tensional forces. One tensional force by the string OP at O, which acts along the string OP and away from O. Another tensional force exerted by the horizontal string OR at O, acts along the horizontal string and away from O. The third tensional force on O will be by the vertical string, which acts along the vertical string and away from O. So I draw a separate free body diagram showing the forces acting at the point O. Scale undali, I mean. So I draw a separate free body diagram indicating the forces acting at O, that is force acting on the particle at O. By the vertical string connected to the block, this T3. I mean T3 is the magnitude of the tensional force exerted by the vertical string on the particle at O, which acts along the string and away from O, that is downwards. Then the tension force by the string OP acts along the string OP and away from O, which is whose magnitude is T0 by T1. So this T1 is the magnitude of tension force by the string OP on the particle at O. So there is, let T2 denote the magnitude of tension in the horizontal string. So the tensional force by the horizontal string OR at O acts along the string and away from the point O. So this angle is 53 degrees when two parallel lines are cut by transverse, alternate angles are equal. Therefore, T1, the string OP makes an angle of 53 degrees with the horizontal. Therefore, the tension for T1 which acts along the string OP makes an angle of 53 degrees with the horizontal. So this is the free body diagram for the force acting at O. I choose the horizontal direction towards right as positive direction of x-axis and vertically upward direction as the positive direction of y-axis. The tension for T1 is inclined to both x and y-axis, or resolve it into two rectangular components along x and y-axis. The horizontal component of tension with magnitude T1 cos 53 degrees acts along positive x-axis. The vertical component of the tension with magnitude T1 sin 53 degrees acts vertically upwards along positive axis. We know the magnitude of the third tension for T3 equal to 100 newtons. So we'll first find F5 because we don't know the values of T1 and T2. So if you find Fx first, you cannot find T1 or T2. To find T1 or T2, first you have to find F5. So the y component resultant force we denoted by F5. The vertical component tension with magnitude T1 sin 53 degrees acts vertically upwards along positive y-axis. The tension force T3 on the particle at O acts vertically downwards in the negative axis. So y component of the resultant force at O will be T1 sin 53 degrees minus T3. That must be 0 because the system is in equilibrium. Therefore, T1 sin 53 degrees equal to T3. You are given the value of cos 53 degrees equal to 3 by 5. From that, you should be able to know the value of sin 53 degrees, which comes out to be 4 by 5. So you can substitute here sin 53 degrees equal to 4 by 5 on the left side, and T3 equal to 100 newtons on the right side. So from this you get T1 equal to 100 Newton into 5 by 4 or 125 Newton. Next to find T2. We'll find Fx, that means x component resultant force at O. The horizontal component of the tension T1 with magnitude T1 cos 53 degrees acts along positive x-axis. The tensile force T2 acts towards left in the negative direction of x-axis. So magnitude of the resultant force along x direction can be written as, x component resultant force T1 cos 53 degrees minus T2. For equilibrium, that should also be 0. Therefore, T2 equal to T1 cos 53 degrees. Can substitute T1 equal to 125 Newton. Cos 53 degrees equal to 3 by 5. You can simplify it yourself and complete the problem. Those who want to copy the solution of the problem, come on. You must start copying the solution of the problem. This problem was given originally in one of the previous EAMCET exam papers, commonly for both medical and engineering papers, engineering entrance. So of course in EAMCET exam you are asked to find the tension T1 in the string OP. I have just changed it to find the tension in the horizontal string OR. So you have to get the answer as, to simplify, you get 75 Newton as the answer. In case you need more time to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and take your time. See the next question, question number 31. In the figure, the blocks A, B and C of mass m each have accelerations A1, A2 and A3 respectively. F1 and F2 are external force of magnitude 2 mg and mg respectively. So you have to find the comparison. You have to compare the accelerations of the blocks A, B, C in the three cases. So in the first figure, a force of magnitude, pulling force of magnitude F1 is applied at the right end of string. See the question number 31. In the figure, the blocks A, B and C of mass m each have accelerations A1, A2 and A3 respectively. F1 and F2 are external force of magnitude 2 mg and mg respectively. You have to compare the accelerations A1, A2, A3 of the three masses A, B, C in the three figures shown in the figure. The three situations. In the first figure, the string on the left side is connected to the left end of string is connected to the block A, and a pulling force of magnitude F1 is applied at the right end of the string. So magnitude of the tension, as I discussed earlier in the beginning of connecting bodies, if the mass of the string is negligible compared to the mass of the block, then magnitude of tension will be same at all points of a particular string. So in the first case, magnitude of the tensional force at any point of the string will be equal to F1. So in the first case, the string on the right hand side is pulled with the force of magnitude F1. Therefore, in the first case, the magnitude of tension at any point of the string, at any cross section of string, will be equal to F1. So magnitude of tension force exerted by the string on the block E, the first case, can be taken as equal to F1, which acts upwards. The weight mg of the block E acts downwards. The mass of the block E is m. So MBA you can write as m. The tension force by the string on the block A will have magnitude F1. It acts upwards. So the acceleration of the block A will be directed upwards because F1 is equal to 2 mg, which is more than the weight of the block A. So F1 is more than the weight of the block A, so acceleration, net force on block A will be directed upwards. So choose the upward direction as positive direction for the block A. So resultant for the block A can write F1 minus mg. Newton's second law. This will be equal to product of the mass of the block A and its acceleration denoted by A1. Can substitute F1 equal to 2 mg on the left side. And simplify this equation. You get A1 equal to G in magnitude. The second case, second figure, you are given the case of upwards motion. In the second figure, you are given the case of upwards motion. As I discussed in Atwood's mission earlier, if two masses are connected by a light string which passes over a smooth, light and fixed pulley, then magnetic acceleration of the masses is given by m1 minus m2 by m1 plus m2 into g. So m1 is heavier mass, m2 is lighter mass. Here m1 you should take it as 2m and m2 equal to m. So you can take m1 equal to 2m and m2 equal to m and simplify this. You get a2 equal to g by 3. The third case, so F2 has magnitude mg. So in the figure you have to correct this. In the third case, F2 has magnitude mg here. F2 is not equal to mg, F1 is to mg, F2 is mg. In the third case, the string on the right hand side is pulled vertically downwards with force of magnitude F2. So if the mass of the string is negligible compared to the mass of the block C, magnet of tension will save at all cross sections of the string. So the magnet of tension force on the block C by the string will be same as the magnet of pulling force applied at the other end of the string, which is equal to F2. So tension force on the block C by the string acts along the string and away from the block C. So the weight mg of the block C acts downwards. So net force on the block C, if you take upward direction as positive, net force on the block C will be equal to F2 minus mg. That is called mass into its acceleration. Here F2 equal to mg here. So you get acceleration A3 equal to 0 in the third case. So you compare the A1 and A2 and A3 here, you can observe that A1 is greater than, A2 is greater than A3. So on those who want to copy the solution of the problem, they can copy down the solution of the problem. In case you need more time to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and take your time. So just now I have discussed the question number 31. So the answer is A1 greater than, A2 greater than A3. So for just I have discussed 31. So you get the second option answer, A1 greater than A2 greater than A3. Next you see the question number 32. Two bodies A and B moving with same momentum see the next question number 32. Two bodies A and B moving with same momentum along the hurried surface are brought to rest by applying equal and constant retarding forces. Their masses are in the ratio of 4:9. the ratio of the time taken to bring them to rest is. So if the force is constant, then also the motion is one-dimensional. The average force can be taken to be same as instantaneous force can be taken to be same as the average force. Two bodies A and B moving with the same momentum along a horizontal surface are brought to rest by applying equal and constant retarding forces. Their masses are in the ratio 4:9. The ratio of the times taken to bring them to rest is. You are given four options. The forces are constant here. If the external force of the body is constant, then the instantaneous force on the body at any instant during retarded motion can be taken as equal to the average force. So the average force, you can write change in momentum by time interval. Change in momentum is equal to the final momentum minus initial momentum. Pi bar is the initial momentum, Pf bar is the final momentum. So when the body is brought to rest, the final momentum is 0. Here, both the bodies are initially moving with the same momentum. That means the value of Pi is same for both. Initial momentum is same for both. And both the bodies are brought to rest by applying equal constant retarding forces. That means the force applied on retarding force applied on each body is same. So force is same, initial momentum is same, therefore time will also be the, time taken to bring them to rest will also be the same. So if you write otherwise for the first body, we can write F1 equal to F1 bar equal to minus P1 bar by T1. F2 bar you can write for second body minus P2 bar by T2. Here P1 bar is the initial momentum to first body, P2 bar is the initial momentum to second body. T1 is the time taken to bring the first body to rest, T2 is the time taken to bring the second body to rest. It is given that the two bodies are brought to rest by applying equal constant retarding forces. That means P1 equal to P2 and F1 equal to F2. Therefore, T1 will be equal to T2. Our ratio of the times taken to bring them to rest will be 1:1. That means you don't require the given ratio of masses to answer the question. So answer is 1:1. If you want to copy the solution, you can copy down the solution. So with this, I have finished the discussion of all the questions 1 to 32 in the assignment in Newton's laws. So in my next class, I will be showing you some more questions in the assignment in Newton's law. That means I will be showing you some questions in continuation to 32 from 33 onwards. I will be showing some more questions, few more questions in Newton's laws. Then after that, I will be starting friction. In friction, actually, you come across more problems in the application of Newton's laws. Okay, I'll continue the discussion in my next class.